The high and the mighty will fall. There will be no power brokers. The wall of power will fall.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Wall of Power Radio Hour. This is your host, Paul Mesa, coming to you with a brand new show with one of our favorite guests, Mr. Charlie Pierce, in our continuing series, Checkpoint Charlie. We've got a lot of catching up to do, but first of all, it's been a while. Mr. Pierce, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fine, Paul. How are you doing?
Well, I'll tell you what, I wish we could start off on a little more of a positive note. We're taping the show on August 24th. Charlie, I don't know if you heard the news. They just announced 1 hour ago that the great Charlie Watts passed away.
Yeah, I saw that. I did see that. I immediately queued up Tumbling Dice.
Yeah. You know, it's...
You talk about a guy who lived in the pocket, man.
Oh.
Charlie, metronomes use Charlie Watts to keep time.
You know, it was when I was going to start the show off tonight, bitching about how the Stones had the balls to go on the road without Charlie Watts. And just as I was queuing up my notes, I read that. And I just, who was more beloved in rock and roll than Charlie Watts? You know, maybe
and everybody. That's true. And who in rock and roll was married to the same woman for 57 years?
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, Charlie's great line when he, when Mick Jagger introduced him as my drummer and
yes.
Watts knocked him out and said, "No, you're my singer." You know, I remember.
He and Bill Wyman, they were the backbone.
Yeah,
and of
absolutely.
course, Charlie, you know, expanded into big band music and all kinds of stuff.
He loved jazz. He was a great jazz drummer. But I remember when I saw the Stones, it would have been 20 years ago at the Metrodome in Minneapolis, and I happened to be sitting in front of Minnesota Twins pitcher Jim Cott and his family. And,
I like Jim. Jim's a great guy.
Jim's a great guy, and I just was having those few moments before the Stones were introduced going, now that I've had a nice 15-minute conversation with Mr. Cott and his wife, at what point do I pull out the joints before the show? But it was kind of like Keith Richards and Jim Cott. I went with Keith. Jim was he knew what was happening. It wasn't his first rodeo. But I remember when they introduced Charlie Watts, Charlie Pierce, I had tears in my eyes. I had such emotion for the man.
Yeah, as we said, that was the thing. He's one of the few people in that business that everybody liked.
Yeah. Now,
everybody respected and everybody liked.
When was the first time you saw the Rolling Stones live?
I have never seen the Rolling Stones.
Wow.
I never have. They're the one, beyond the guys who died young, they're the one hole in my resume.
Yeah.
I just never got, they came around, then they didn't come around, then they were in Europe all that time. And then they just were not, they and I were just never in the same town. And when they started doing stadium tours and stuff at the end, I sort of didn't want to see them. And plus they were priced way out of my price range.
Well, as part of that Metrodome show, I remember they did a stripped-down thing where they went on to the runway that ran into the to the Metrodome, and they did this stripped-down thing of the band, so you had a little bit of a idea of what they might have sounded like in a small club, which would have been amazing. I can't imagine how Mick and Keith and Ronnie, how they've got to be feeling today.
Well, yeah, their bass player is the guy who used to be with the Allman Brothers, right?
Their bass player was Daryl Jones. I don't know if Daryl was with the Allman Brothers or not.
No, I thought it was Lamar Williams.
No, Daryl Jones has been playing with them for, 20-some years.
Oh, okay. All right. My mistake.
But, yeah, and I always, truthfully, Daryl's a great player. I always had a problem with that because for me, the Stones needed Bill Wyman to be playing the bass with a pick. Daryl always played with his fingers. It never gave me quite the definition I needed with the modern Stones.
Okay, I got you. I see your point. Yeah, I mean, among the, among the rhythm sections out of that era, Watson, Wyman, and Entwistle and Moon are the two that come right to mind.
Yeah. Well, may he rest in peace. We could do a whole Charlie Watts series.
Hey, made it all the way to 80. I mean,
God bless him.
That's beating the odds in that life.
Yeah, and he was a real, when you picture that idea of the genteel UK gentleman, he was it.
I mean, that story they tell about him punching out Jagger, he got dressed up first. He put on a suit and Savile Row gorgeous suit and some, brand new Cordovans or whatever, and then he went down and knocked Mick
out. God bless him. Well, Charlie, I got to admit, as you know, I moved up to the beautiful city of Duluth, Minnesota, and I've been taking some time off from politics. I like to tell people I
think that's a wise move. In fact, Esquire we're closing we're dark next week. Nobody's going to be working. I'm not going to be doing the blog. Nobody's going to be doing anything else because we all need a week off.
Oh my goodness gracious! Although I know I had a really fun Monday, and I know you're a huge hockey guy, huge sports guy, but I know you love your hockey like I did. But I did I donated an hour and a half with the music for an event up in Biwabik, Minnesota. It was called Teammates for Life, and they were raising money for a facility in Sauk Center, Minnesota, for people with PTSD, hockey players, football players,
sure.
and they were raising money because they're going to be naming the facility after Mark Pavlovich,
that's great.
Yeah,
what a great idea.
Yeah, and of course he one of the stars of the 1980 Olympics hockey team, and then went on to play for the New York Rangers. And what was fun, Charlie, was it was really busy. There was, 300 or 400 people there. But, Buzzy Schneider was there, Phil Vercoda, Bill Baker, a lot of people that played with on the 1980 Olympics teams. I was offered, they gave me a spot in return for playing to be on one of the foursomes in the golf thing. I'm a horrible golfer. The last thing I was going to do, Charlie, was get on a foursome with hockey players that actually knew how to golf, depending on me to make the 20-foot putt. Was not going to happen. So I gave up my spot.
Of course, all hockey players are golf nuts.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And you know what? They were all in terrific shape.
Sure.
I mean, there wasn't a beer belly in the bunch. And the guy that booked me was Dan Tomasoni. I believe you knew him, but he used to coach the Harvard hockey team, correct?
Yeah, he was there after my time at the Herald, so I never got to know him. I knew Billy Cleary. That was my Harvard coach.
Did you know this guy who I bumped into? He was hawking his book. He looked like $1 million wearing a big cowboy hat, named Clint Malarchuk.
Oh, I remember his name, sure.
Now, he was the guy, he was playing for, I believe, was it the Islanders? No, the Buffalo Sabres in 1989 against the St. Louis Blues. When there was a kind of a car crash at the Nats, and he got his carotid artery skated over. And it was a horrific event. He asked the trainer to let him stand up and be skated off the ice because he knew his mom was watching the game. But I was doing a little Wikipedia research on this. It was so bloody. 11 fans fainted. 2 people in the stands had heart attacks. 3 of the players vomited on the ice. I don't mean to make light of this, but it kind of underscores how violent hockey can be.
Yeah, no, I mean it's a it's a high speed collision sport.
And the thing about and it combines ballet at top speeds. They play for, it's not like football where you get a break every 12 seconds. And,
Right.
But I've always had, to me, correct me if I'm wrong, I think hockey is the most athletic and skilled game that there is in sports.
Well, it's certainly the most, the of the team sports, it's the most exhausting.
Yeah.
I mean, it's aerobically. I mean, I don't think any sport is close, not even basketball.
Yeah. Well, and then you add the blades and the sticks and the proclivity for some of those guys that like to fight, and it's hockey at its finest, truthfully. But it was really fun to see. There's several hundred of these hockey players to come together for one of their own. Like I said, the motto for the event was "Teammates for Life," so it was
Sure.
fun to be a part of that.
It sounds great.
Go ahead.
Playing up in those Lake Superior breezes.
Yeah, it was, and it brought me back home. I mean, I started playing hockey when I was a kid, and was able, I kind of came of age scrimmaging against the Carlson brothers, and then went to Tommy Williams Hockey School with Phil Verkota, and of course I've told you I've got that great picture of myself and a young Bobby Orr at the Tommy Williams Hockey School in '68, and the other two coaches were Tony and Phil Esposito, and I think we lost one of the Esposito brothers.
Tony died about 3 weeks ago.
Yeah. So it was I bailed on hockey in about 8th grade. I just didn't feel like I was good enough. But now in retrospect, when I look back at those guys I had the honor of playing against, even as a kid, it was really one of the last golden ages of Iron Range hockey.
Yeah, I mean, that's why when I did, I should show you this picture sometime. I'll take a picture of the picture and show it to you. It's the marquee at my hotel. When I went up, when I was working at GQ, when I went up to write about War Road hockey at Henry Boucher.
Oh,
they have the marquee. It says, "Welcome, Charlie Pierce to Hockeytown, USA."
Oh my God! Well, there you go. You could. I think you've got your whatever you need for your tombstone. Charlie, so what? We're going to be. You have shared some music with us. We're going to listen to 3 songs by this band, and I believe you've got blood relationship in the band. So
my daughter Molly is the lead singer in a band called Good Moon, and they just dropped an EP, and I figured I'd run it by the Hour of Power Radio Hour.
Well, I really dug what I heard, and we're going to share a song now, and we'll have some info when we put up the podcast about how to track down more of the music of the band. Yeah, Molly's got a lovely voice. Has she sang her whole life?
Yeah, she started singing when she was like 2 years old.
Yeah.
And she's got a very, everybody who hears her says she was born in the wrong part of the century. That she should have been a nightclub singer in the 40s.
Yeah, she's got beautiful voice and great phrasing.
Yeah, she does it purely for fun too, which is nice.
Yeah. And what did you say the name of the band was again, Charlie?
Good Moon.
Good Moon. All right, we're going to listen to a little bit of Good Moon and be back for the whole show tonight in the Wall of Power Radio Hour with my good friend, Mr. Charlie Pierce.
I hardly ever feel like myself anymore. I think I'm different now than who I was before. I've got ideas that will never come to life. I need a light now. Where is the light now? I've been a little stuck and just a little scared. I try to reach out and don't know if you'll be there. I've been
Welcome back to the second set of the Wall of Power Radio Hour. This is your host, Paul Metzen. One of our favorite guests on tonight, Mr. Charlie Pierce, with our continuing series called Checkpoint Charlie. Checking in with Charlie, what have you been doing besides following the hellhole that's modern politics? Are you having any summertime fun, reading any good books? Listening to any good
I'm hanging out. I'm not doing a lot. I'm still doing physical therapy and stuff for the back when I get hit by the car. But
Right.
I'm hanging around and basically taking it easy. There's a lot to be said for loafing.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, did you, when did you, tell us that might have not heard about you got run over, about a year and a half ago?
Yeah, it was December of 19.
And you were just walking across the street.
Yeah, the guy ran over my foot, and I was stuck. And I whacked his hood and said, "Hey, get off my foot!" And instead of backing up, he accelerated, and knocked me down.
Wow.
I got real. I was incredibly lucky. My head landed in a snowbank. So
man.
really. I had a concussion. I had some staples in my head, but it could have been a lot worse. That could have been a lot worse.
Wow. But you're starting to feel better.
Oh yeah, I've been. Yeah, it's just that my physical therapy got sidelined when the pandemic hit.
Right.
So I couldn't go anywhere, and I was trying to do it at home, and I probably wasn't doing it well. But no, I'm going to get back. I'm going to pick the FA up again, I think, this fall and go fence. And
oh, that's right. You are a fencer. Interesting.
I was up at 5 o'clock in the morning watching the fencing from the Olympics.
Wow. Good for you. What does I've got to ask you, and we've talked about it before, but growing up with a love of writing like you did, and then become a professional writer, what influence did Jack Kerouac have on you? And did you
almost none. I've never read On the Road. He was a guy I just went by. I didn't, I just never read anything but a guy.
Huh.
I certainly recognize, the influence he had on, a couple of generations of writers, but it just wasn't me. And it's not because I started to read his book and then didn't like it. I just never got it. I never started it, so I have no idea. So like I said, he had absolutely no influence on me.
Interesting. You might
the guys who had the most influence on me. The guys who had the most influence on me growing up were the guys who started doing what Tom Wolfe called the new journalism in New York at Harper's and Rolling Stone and to an extent Esquire back in Hughes' days. Those are the guys who had most influence on me. Certainly Hunter and the rest of the Rolling Stone guys, but the guys at Harper's too, and Larry L. King from Texas, and those guys. Those are the guys who had the most influence on me.
Now,
and all of the guys at the Andre Laguerre Sports Illustrated. Jenkins, Roy Blunt, DeFord, Kirk Kirkpatrick, all those guys.
Now, you and I, you hooked me to a really good Boston sports writer, and I tracked down his anthology of writing at the Hennepin County Library. At the time, I owed them more than I could take out. I did reserve the book. I think he was an Irish guy. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Oh, Bob Ryan?
No, I see he was a real character, but maybe that was his name.
Oh, George Kimball. He was the guy I worked with at the Phoenix. But I don't know if he has an anthology out there.
No, this guy seemed to me to be he was seen to be Irish, but he was a heavy-duty sports writer for some bar. Yeah, I'm forgetting his name. I reserved his book. I read a little bit when I went downtown, to look at the book, but wasn't able to get it. Well,
Yeah.
that might come to us. Well, have you been reading anything fun this summer?
Yeah, I've been reading. I've been trying to read. I've been trying to read a lot for myself and not for work. I mean,
Yeah.
I have to read for work and so I can background myself and stuff. But yeah, I was just reading. In fact, talking about reporters and writers, I was just reading Bill Montaglio's biography of Molly Ivins.
Oh, Molly Ivins.
Which was it's a really good biography. I mean, they knew each other for years in Austin.
And what's the name of it?
It was interesting how tied in that whole Austin crew was with the musicians down there.
Yeah.
I mean, they all went to the Armadillo. They all knew each other. It was this real counterculture hub.
Right. Well, I had our friend on a few months ago, James Moore.
Oh, I know Jim.
Yeah.
I've never met him, but we've corresponded for a long time.
Yeah, he's a great guy. I love his writing. He's got a weekly newsletter out. But when I chatted with him a few months back, he talked about that whole thing, about the Armadillo and, Ray Benson, young George Bush, Molly Ivins. I mean, Willie Nelson, what a treasure trove of personalities.
Yeah, I mean, it was like everything about the thing was counterculture. The music, the politics, the writing, the reporting, the newspapers, everything.
Yeah.
And of course, it was in the state capitol with all these incredible characters.
Right.
Thieves and crooks and stuff, and great copy.
Yeah, well, I believe. I know Molly did some of her, earned some of her bones, I believe, at the Minneapolis Star Tribune.
She did. She started out at Houston Chronicle, and then moved to I just read this, so I know this. Moved to Minneapolis, the Minneapolis Tribune. They couldn't contain her, so she moved back to Texas and went to work at the Texas Observer.
Did you ever get to know Molly at all or meet her?
No, we corresponded because one of my best friends at the Boston Phoenix was a guy named John Ferguson, God rest his soul, and he had worked with Molly and Kay Northcott at the Texas Observer. So I wrote her an email one time saying, I may not look upon you as my mother in the business, but at least I can look upon you as my aunt, and explained to her about me and Ferguson. And we, corresponded a little bit back and forth. And then when John passed away, there were 5 of us. This was when Molly was pretty sick, but John passed away, and there were about 5 of us who spoke at his funeral. And she had her assistant get all of us to send copies of our eulogies to her so she could read them.
Oh, nice.
So we were sort of connected anyway.
I wrote a song years ago called Christmas at Molly's about this legendary...
Yeah, but that's a bar.
Yeah, that's a bar, but I sent it to her, and because her name was Molly, and I did get a really nice postcard back. I'd never throw anything away. It's somewhere in my files, but I just adored her in a George Bush era. When they would interview either Molly or Ann Richards, I mean, God, you just had to bow down to both those women and how they took that guy to task.
Yeah, well, I mean, Ann Richards, she went after the father too.
Yeah.
They were extremely valuable during those 8 years.
Oh my God!
Of course, I certainly wish Molly had lived to assess the last 4.
Oh my goodness gracious! So So you've had to dip your toe in because that's your beat is politics. My guest Charlie Pierce writes for Esquire.com, and you see him with semi-regularity on CNN and MSNBC. So what, Charlie? I've been staying out of politics. What do I need to know? Bring me up to speed, or should I just put my head back in the sand and keep drinking?
Well, I can't speak one way or the other on the drinking, but putting the head back in the sand would make drinking difficult, I would think. But it will give you a thirst. We're back in the same hole. The Republicans are completely out of their minds. They can't control their base. Donald Trump got booed the other night at one of his rallies because he told people to take the vaccine. The Republican Party, the rank and file is a madhouse right now.
Yeah.
And the Democrats are trying to get infrastructure bills passed and can't get out of their own way. So, we're all kind of blinking and stumbling through the rubble that was left behind by the last guy.
Yeah. What is your fears for all the redistricting, all the voter rights suppression? Is this going to be, this is the way of the future, whether we like it or not?
Oh, my biggest fear is that it's all going to work. The Democrats are paying a price for ignoring state legislative races, and they're in a deep hole, and they're in a very deep hole on that. It's going to take them a while to dig out, and of course, the courts aren't reliable on that anymore. And
right,
my biggest fear about all the voter suppression is that it's all going to work.
Yeah. Now, kind of close to your territory, I see Andrew Cuomo finally stepped down.
Yeah, they swore in the first woman governor of New York today.
Yeah.
Boy, that was a fast death. I'll tell you what, that was a fast death, too. That happened quick.
Yeah. So where does a guy like Cuomo, where does he end up? Is he now
I'm sure he'll be I don't know that he'll be able to go to academia now with those incidents on his record. He'll end up as he'll probably wind up with some network pundit gig after a while, and he'll be a lobbyist, and who knows, he may decide to run for something again.
Yeah.
Figure it'll all blow over. He's there again now.
Well, the thing is, it really doesn't matter what you've done in politics. There's second, third, fourth, and fifth lives waiting for you because people have such a short freaking attention span.
Right. The worst thing that your Minnesota boy F. Scott Fitzgerald ever wrote was that there aren't any second acts in American life. There are nothing but second acts in American life. There are third and fourth acts. There are epilogues. There are encores.
Yeah. Well, how do you feel like I've been in the music business for 40 years, so I have no choice but to be a born optimist. I have to think at some point when you have Alex Jones dissing Donald Trump that the bloom has to come off that particular rose. Please agree with
Trump?
Yeah.
I think it already has begun. I think that they're not going to get any more sane. They're just going to find somebody else to rally behind.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's the guy from Florida or, one of the crackpots from Congress.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we've got Charlie Pierce on the Wall of Power Radio Hour tonight. Charlie, you got to come and visit me the next time things lighten up in Duluth. Duluth is considered one of the best locations for beer in America right now because that 10% of the world's fresh water is right down the hill from me in Lake Superior. Everywhere you turn, there's a great IPA here in a new brew pub in town. And
yeah, I know. I'm a tremendous sucker for the Great Lakes generally. So if I ever get a chance to get up there.
Well, you're always welcome. You spent some serious time at going to school in Marquette down in Milwaukee. And back, you remember back in the day, the 70s and 80s, the beers that we used to consider, tried and true golden beverages were Leinenkugel's, Point.
Right.
Point. I guess you always had Sam Adams out in Boston.
Well, Sam Adams is far more recent, but I remember the first time I was in lacrosse, the first time I ever had Leinenkugel's lager, which for some reason they will not market nationally. They market everything else nationally. The red, the Bock, the Shandy, everything. Leinen's will not market their lager nationally. Drives me crazy.
Wow. I remember years ago back when
I remember Point. I remember Ham.
Yeah. Well, I remember
Very refreshing.
I love Point beer, and I love their motto from Stevens Point, Wisconsin. When you're out of Point, you're out of town.
That's right.
But I remember Leinenkugels. They used to have it at the 400 bar, which was right at the corner of Cedar and Riverside in the West Bank, which is kind of where the great Willie Murphy and Colonel and Glover, that was their territory after Dinkytown kind of came to the other side of the river. But back when the independent rock and roll revolution started with the Ramones and then our beloved Replacements, Robert Christgau came to town doing an article on the Replacements for the Village Voice. This would have been in late 70s. And he was so enamored with Leinenkugels was he took a case back with him to New York City.
There's no question I should have done that at some point.
We'll see if we can get
last time I was
up
anywhere near
on that.
The last time I was anywhere near that part of the country, I just should have bought a case because you can't get it here. It makes me nuts.
Yeah, well, I'll get you set up, Charlie Pierce. We're going to listen to a little bit of Charlie's Daughter's band, and then have Charlie on for one more set on the Wall of Power Radio Hour.
One single flame against the storm. There was one word that fought the war. You know the rules, you made them. If there's a chance, you'll take them. But who's that for? Who's that for? You're the name of every bad decision. You're the face of my mistake. Wall of Power Radio Hour.
That was my friend the Divas. They're an Iron trio. They're kind of they carry on the Andrews Sisters tradition, of course, the Andrews Sisters. Oh, yeah. And I asked them, I was up doing a Iron Range, interviewing some great musicians from up there about 5 years ago. And I was in the living room with the three of them. And I said, I need some really 50s cheeseball bumper music. They came up with that in about 3 minutes, wrote it and recorded it. So I want to give it to my friends, the Divas, for recording that. So, Charlie, we got, let's circle back now. We just heard, we're taping this on August 24th, 2021. And we just heard of the passing of the great Charlie Watts. Now, when do you remember young Charlie Pierce hearing the Rolling Stones for the first time and go, oh, yeah, I might like these guys more than I like the Beatles?
Yeah, I was so locked into the Beatles at that point. I never felt that, but I knew that this was different.
Yeah,
that for some reason this British invasion thing wasn't going to be a lot of pretty boys singing harmony. It wasn't going to be all Jerry and the Pacemakers. It was going to be these guys. It was going to be the four lunatics from Shepherd's Bush, with whom I fell in love almost immediately. First time I ever heard Substitute, I was in love there.
Yeah.
And then, the funny thing with the Stones was I loved their breakthrough stuff. Then I sort of lost track of them between Aftermath and Satanic Majesty. And then I picked them up when they went on that run with Beggar's Banquet, Let It Bleed, Exile, that incredible. As soon as Mick Taylor joined the band, basically, is when I came back into the Rolling Stones.
Well, you probably, that's my favorite Stones period is with Mick Taylor. I mean, there's no
question. My God, he was good.
Oh, and he was young. I mean, wasn't he like 18 years old?
I don't know that he was that young, but yeah, he had already played with Mayall, so I don't know how young. I mean, he wasn't 20. He wasn't 25. I mean,
yeah,
he wasn't close to that.
and there's some great stuff. And then he, I believe he was on Real Life with Bob Dylan. But yeah, anytime you can hear Mick Taylor, wherever you can hear him now, usually on YouTube, is worth hearing. The guy was phenomenal. And what a great foil for.
There's a whole bunch of YouTube videos from the American tour that they did Behind Exile, where they do, Rip This Joint and, a whole bunch of other stuff from that album. And Mick Taylor is the All Down the Line. Mick Taylor is the absolute star of the videos.
Yeah. Well, it's such a great.
I mean, outside of Duane Allman, I think he's the best white slide player I ever heard.
Yeah, and like Duane Allman, plays a 59 Les Paul.
Did he really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, he was a Les Paul guy. True, and I think he played a Strat for a little bit, but I think all that great Stone stuff was played on the Les Paul.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, in fact, I got a buddy, Billy Alcorn. He builds cases in Nashville for just about everybody, and he just did a project with the Allman Family Trust down in Macon, where they put he's got with the Allman Betts Band. Now, Devon Allman and Dickie Betts' kid have a band. And so
I heard about that.
Yeah, and they're not bad. But what's cool about my buddy Billy, he went down to Macon, and they took, I believe, that 59 Gold Top Les Paul and other Duane guitars and other artifacts. And so now if you get a VIP ticket to the Allman Betts Band, you get a tour backstage, and you get to see those sacred instruments.
Oh, God. Every guitar player's dream.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Maybe if I played this one, I can be great,
Well, they had actually, one thing they had was they had an old, I believe it was a Dan Electro that belonged to Duane Allman, and then it got lost. But Delaney Bramlett tracked it down somewhere. And the story was, Duane said, yeah, if you ever find it, he goes, I nicked the back with my thumbnail. And sure enough, they've got that guitar with a thumbnail nick on this tour, and showcased artfully by my buddy Billy Alcorn. So, Charlie Pierce, it's so great to reconnect with you. We've been kind of doing reruns on the Wall of Power Radio Hour.
It is always a pleasure. Anytime you need me, send up the
we love having
signal.
You. Yeah, we got the checkpoint bat signal. So we'll be in touch. So, Charlie, your pick, Checkpoint Charlie pick, you get to pick the Rolling Stones tune we're going out with on the Wall of Power Radio Hour.
Well, since we're doing this because of the passing of Charlie Watts, I want to hear Tumbling Dice.
Perfect choice. Charlie, thanks for your time tonight. Have a great rest of the summer, and we
Always
will be in touch.
Always a pleasure. Say hi to Lake Superior for me, Paul.
I sure will, Charlie. Thanks for your time. Bye-bye.
You bet. Bye-bye.
Oh, you
Thanks for listening to the Wall of Power Radio Hour. The show was produced by Paul Metza, engineered by Patrick Lilia. We'd like to thank our guest, Checkpoint Charlie Pierce. We listened to several tunes by his daughter's Molly's band called Good Moon. And of course, we want to remember the great Charlie Watts on this day. We'd like to thank one of our great sponsors, School of Rock, Eden Prairie. Follow me at paulmetza.com. And like my dad used to tell me, remember to be kind and make someone happy.